Meanwhile, at the Tsuchiya University Hospital.
As we begin chapter 95 of JoJolion, we are greeted with an illustration of our protagonist, Gappy, accompanying the line, "Seen through that injury is." We've barely seen Gappy recently, and we won't see him this chapter either, so this is an odd choice, but regardless, it's nice to get a better look at his new redesign. According to the title of this chapter, we have now concluded the Dangerous Pursuit arc, and are beginning the Endless Calamity arc, a fitting name that reflects how everything seems to be falling apart at the seams. With this being chapter 95, JoJolion now officially has as many chapters as Steel Ball Run, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. We begin with an overview of the wreckage in the Higashikata household, with Mitsuba declaring that the head doctor's stand is nothing less than a calamity. Roll credits! If this is indeed what the Endless Calamity is in reference to, then it seems the next few chapters will still be focused around the head doctor, even if he ends up sitting on the back burner for this one. The rest of the family enters the room where everything went down in the last chapter. Norisuke hears Paisley Park struggling in the toilet and goes to retrieve the phone, saving Yasuho from the brink of death. Jobin isn't very fond of the whole not killing Yasuho thing, as he believes it's necessary for the Higashikata family to be successful in the long run. This is an ideology he learned from Kato back when he had the rock disease, and he has carried it into his adult life. Nothing else matters but family. Don't let strangers get in your way. That's the type of ideology Jobin follows. Jobin gets in Norisuke's face and tells him that this is the right path for curing Tsurugi, while Yasuho begs Norisuke to put her near the power outlet. Norisuke is willing to do a lot for the sake of his family, but his ideology is directly opposite to Jobin and Kato's. He believes his family's business is something that should be solved internally and refuses to get outsiders wrapped up in it. The idea of killing innocents is something he would never consider doing. We switch to Yasuho's point of view. She looks up and sees that the head doctor has moved to the estate's garage, opposite to the wall he was standing on before. This level of movement is not possible for anyone, much less an 89-year-old man. It feels like he's teleporting at times, and he very well might be. For the time being, he's propped himself up on the hood of one of the cars. It's not entirely clear what his intentions are here, but he probably knows he can't simply waltz into the house where powerful stand users like Jobin reside and grab the Rokakaka graft. For his ability to remain effective, he must keep his distance somewhat, so he may be waiting for the situation within the house to devolve further. Jobin doesn't want Yasuho to leave the estate. He believes he can't let the position of the new Rokakaka leak, but he might just be making things more difficult for himself than is necessary. After all, the branch cultivated multiple Rokakaka, and the head doctor is the only other enemy that seems to be left. There could be others that spring up from nowhere like Ojiro did, but in that case it still would have been better for him to have Gappy, Rai, and Yasuho as allies, so they could work together towards both saving Holly and defeating the Higashikata curse. He would have had fewer enemies and more allies. He could have stopped killing innocents. But he doesn't trust any outsiders after all that's happened, especially not Gappy. This is Higashikata business, and that guy is not a Higashikata. He's a dangerous freeloader. He killed Damo, and who knows how many of Jobin's other allies. He just wants the Rokakaka for himself, and to rely on someone like that would be a form of weakness. I'm sure something like that is going through Jobin's mind at this point. And while I can see his perspective, I think a lot of how Jobin justifies his actions comes from always staying whatever path he currently walks, regardless of whether his destination makes any sense. He's a very childish and stubborn person, who would rather be strong than rely on the strength of others. Jobin claims that Tsurugi and Mitsuba acknowledge that this is necessary, but this could not be further from the truth. Tsurugi is in hysterics right now, both because of what's happening to Yasuho and the effects of the disease, which has developed even further. Jobin has a misplaced assumption that Tsurugi has inherited his ideology, because of how he ended up inheriting his mother's ideology, but will come to learn that children don't always live up to the wishes of their fathers. Meanwhile, Mitsuba needed to be coerced into abandoning Yasuho, and only buckled when faced with the immediate threat of the head doctor. Jobin is trying to act as the head of the family, but he's failing in more ways than one. Jobin tells Norisuke that by using the new Rokakaka, they can break the curse that has plagued the Higashikatas for generations. Norisuke says that Jobin may be correct, and that he will go along with Jobin's plan, but he has one concern, and it's the smell on the flower pot. Jobin is taken off guard. He knows that Norisuke must be referring to Ojiro's smell, and realizes that his father definitely won't support the plan if he knows that people are dying because of it. Norisuke bears his king nothing for the world to see. This is the first time we're seeing it since chapter 33, and funnily enough, when it was used then, it also showed that Jobin had been scheming behind his father's back. King Nothing takes the form of Ojiro, making it clear that not only was Jobin responsible for his death, but also the death of his girlfriend, who Mitsuba knew and didn't seem to be involved with any of this in the first place. This shocks the entire family, except Tsurugi, who's just kinda suffering in the background. Norisuke looks out the window and sees Yasuho, bloodied and on the verge of death. It's clear he didn't realize how bad the situation had gotten, because I don't think he would have agreed to help Jobin if he knew what Paisley Park being in the toilet meant. He turns around and sees that Jobin has already reached out to touch him. With Jobin on the verge of tears and Norisuke with a face that looks like a mix of sadness, fear, and betrayal, Speed King ignites, and Norisuke falls into Jobin's lap. This was not a calculated decision made by a cold and detached man. It was complete panic and fear. Jobin was terrified that everything he had done would have been for nothing if Norisuke tried to stop him. He might have been disowned and forced to go to prison like Kato. Then not only would the curse not be broken, but Norisuke likely would have had to sacrifice himself for Tsurugi anyways. Time and time again, he tries to do what he thinks is right for the betterment of his family, but he keeps piling one mistake on top of another until the family he did this all for is cowering at his feet, and they've all come out of the situation worse off. In the end, by doing everything he could to rise higher than the point at which he began at, Jobin became the true King Nothing. He could point around and try to place the blame on others, but he knows that this was his own doing. The regret felt by Jobin mere seconds after he killed his father is palpable. He realizes that he probably chose the worst option he could have. While the things Jobin did were horrifying, his father would never simply abandon him. They could have gotten through it, but now Dad is gone, and summer vacation is over. Damn. What a good scene. I still have a lot more to say about it, but let's get through the remaining events that occur within the chapter. Daya, Hado, and Joshu all approach in order to help Norisuke, but Jobin forces them away and demands that they keep their mouths shut about this. He then proceeds to put Norisuke into a body bag, horrifying them further. I saw a lot of people say that this disproves that it's Yasuho in the body bag during the flash forward, and I really don't understand why they'd assume so. Yes, it's clearly Norisuke in there right now, but the theory that it was Yasuho in the bag always relied upon the assumption that Tsurugi had used Paper Moon King to make her look like Norisuke. For him to have any reason to do so, someone would have needed to assume that Norisuke was in a body bag. And regardless of how you slice things, it's really suspicious that Araki wrote in both Yasuho and Norisuke getting their right hand dismembered through two unrelated abilities within a chapter of each other. If anything, this whole scenario is pointing towards it being more likely that it was Yasuho in the body bag than less likely, but time will tell. Jobin looks back to the phone that Paisley Park was trapped in, and notices that they are no longer trapped within it. The single panel of Joshu's foot implies that Joshu kicked the phone over to the outlet to save Yasuho. You know what that means? It's legal to be a Joshu fan now, boy! Jokes aside, some people seem to be a bit frustrated that the three of them didn't do more when their father was being killed right before their very eyes, but you have to look at it from their perspective. The siblings have always adored and looked up to Jobin. They've never really seen this side of him before, and this whole situation probably feels unreal to them. Paisley Park returns with its right arm missing, just like Yasuho's is. Her current scenario kind of reminds me of the sheer heart attack arc in Diamond is Unbreakable, where the original Hirose also teetered on the brink of death. It would be kind of a cute callback if some alternate universe version of Jotaro were to come in clutch and save her at the last minute. Maybe someone with like a biker stand? That'd be pretty cool. Too bad there aren't any characters like that in JoJolion. Oh well. The head doctor stands up to leave. Where he's going is unclear, but Mitsuba has some choice words about him, which she narrates. She once again references that the head doctor's attack is akin to a calamity, which she is at the center of. In the last panel, she states that Yasuho went outside of the house over a depiction of the tilted meditation pine in the Higashikata yard. It's possible that this is foreshadowing Yasuho entering the Higashikata shrine in order to be healed. After all, she still has an arm missing and can't exactly get that far on her own. If that were to happen, we might end up getting some answers as to what is actually in there that has allowed the Higashikata family to perform exchanges in the past. I still think that it's most likely Johnny Joestar's corpse, but it could be any number of things. Okay, so the biggest question this chapter brings is probably, did Norisuke actually die? And the answer to that is yes, probably. The framing of this whole scene makes it seem like this whole turn of events was completely unexpected for all parties involved, so there probably wasn't any way to plan past this, and Tsurugi seems to be in no condition to use a stand right now. But at the same time, they're standing in the very same place where Tsurugi used a stand to convince Ojiro that he and Jobin died, so we can't be absolutely certain any which way. What we can be certain of, though, is that Jobin actively made the decision to kill his father, and that alone is enough to turn the story on its head. At this point, I see two possible paths for the remainder of Jobin's story. Either he is the main villain and JoJolion will conclude with his defeat, or he will end up sacrificing himself to save Tsurugi's life. One way or another, though, he's probably going to die by the end of the story. This chapter had a lot of parallels to chapter 92, especially in regards to the dichotomy between Gappy and Jobin and their relationship with their parents. While Gappy was saved by his mother, Jobin killed his father. The scene shared between Holly and Gappy always gave me the impression that it was loosely based on the Pieta, with the roles of Mary and Jesus swapped to signify the changes to their relationship since Josefumi and Kira became Gappy. Meanwhile, the scene of Jobin and Norisuke seems to be vaguely based on the famous painting Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan, with the roles swapped due to all the debris and the way Jobin holds his father. Gappy starts chapter 92 in shambles, practically crawling towards his goal, and ends with him reaffirming his resolve. This chapter, however, shows the exact opposite, with Jobin starting determined about what must be done and concluding with him a total mess. As for where the story will take us from now on, we have been gradually approaching the flash forward to right before the harvest with each chapter, and this chapter brings us very close to the status quo depicted in that scene. The only incongruities are the attitudes of the siblings and Tsurugi not being half dead. There's no way that the siblings will naturally calm down after these events, so there was likely external interference. This most likely came in the form of Daya's California king bed, whose chess pieces are shown during the flash forward. As for why Tsurugi is healed, maybe has something to do with the third row Kakaka, which was already detached from the branch. If it isn't going to get riper, then it might just be used to mitigate the effects of the disease. So, starting this month, I'm going to try something a little bit new that might be a mainstay segment of these monthly reviews if it works out. YouTube has a feature that allows you to attach polls to a video, so here's what we're going to do. I want you, the viewer, to vote on these polls and then leave a comment explaining why you voted the way you did. Come the release of the next chapter, we'll take a look at the results of the previous chapter's polls, and feature a few of the best comments. This time we're going to have one simple question. Which character was your MVP for chapter 95? A character can be your MVP for any number of reasons. Perhaps they did something really cool, or they made a really good point, or they left a profound impact on you. You can bring up the poll by clicking on the I button on the top right corner of the video. And that concludes this month's chapter of JoJolion. If you want some place to further discuss JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, then consider joining the Aeon Galaxy Discord community, where we discuss new chapters of JoJolion each month, along with countless other topics. In any case, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time.